So I met a guy in Cape Town. Yo, I can't believe I'm finishing this story. So he was German, and the experience was it was sweet at the beginning, but it was bitter at the end. And I think the end sort of like traumatized me in a way. And I can't believe I'm finally sharing this with the world, sort of like here, if anyone else has ever like had a similar experience or something. I don't know. And disclaimer, I'm using natural light and the sun is just coming out. So you're going to see like a lot of shades of me. And yeah, let's get into the video. Hello, YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share a story time experience about how I went on this day with this guy who he was German, but the whole experience left me asking myself a lot of questions, which is why I'm doing this video, to sort of like hear your opinions. If like anyone else has ever like had a similar experience, or have you guys met similar guys out there? Like I want to know, are there like more people like him? Because if so, I need to be warned. Yeah. I can't believe like what this guy said. Oh my God. Anyway, so the story began, I think, somewhere like mid last December. And I met this guy at the place where I was staying, and we met at a restaurant. Like the place where I was staying, the restaurant downstairs was quite lovely. Like it was very social. Like they always like had games going on. They had trivias. They had like beer pong going on. So it was a very sociable place. So like most of the place, whenever like I was done with my day or I had like no special activities to go about in Cape Town, I would go to the restaurant and just chill and like sort of like just mingle with other travelers. And then at most days, I tend to like see this guy. And then I was like, okay, cool, because I see many guys. So it was never like any special thing until he started sort of like making himself distinct. You know, like whenever he would see me, he would sort of like come to me and sort of like try to have chit chats in a way. So we sort of like started having chit chats more often, although through the chit chats, we never like introduce ourselves or anything. So he just knew my name. I just knew his name. And then we just chit chat about like any random stuff that will be the topic of the day for that reason. And it went like that for a while. Like things were just, I mean, things were just like okay between us. Like he would smile when I see him, I would smile when I see him. And we would see each other on like the common areas. And we just like say hi, whatever, and pass. Like we never like really had a proper conversation between those days until New Year's Eve, which is where like everything went shambles anyway. So yeah, so the relationship between us was sort of like how should I describe it? I'd say the relationship between us was sort of like very vague. Like we know of each other, but it was sort of like very vague because we tend to talk about like all of like the random small stuffs and nothing about us. So like I didn't know about him as much, but I knew that I know him. So like I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah. So that was where we stood as just acquaintances in a way. Yeah. So we're just like sort of like acquaintances. And he was traveling with his friends, I'd assume, because he was sometimes with similar people. So I'd assume they were traveling together. So the New Year's Eve arrives and I had plans with my friends. We went to the Pinelands Club. There was a comedy show happening. So we went for that comedy show. And after the comedy show, we sort of like we just chilled around Pinelands. We had drinks and stayed there until like it was like very late. So it was quite like a chill New Year's Eve kind of situation. Like we had fun, all that. And then later in the night, so I went back to Greenpoint, the place I was staying. And then to my surprise, as I was entering the building, I met this guy. He's also entering the building. I don't know where he came from, but we just like coincidentally met ourselves at the same time at the entryway. And I was like, oh, Happy New Year's, Happy New Year's. You know, like we hugged and all that. You know, those kind of things that sort of like they happen. And then you're like, the universe loves me. Like the universe wants me to have a moment. And this felt a lot like that. Like it felt like the universe wanted us to have like a moment. But little did I know this moment was going to smash down like real quick. So yeah, we said like our New Year's, we hugged, all that, like had some small talk. And then he was like, you know what? We could just chill. I'm not even that tired. I mean, that was like around 2 a.m. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm not even tired. We could just maybe like sit in the common area and like just talk because we never really like had a chance to talk or anything. And because this is New Year's Eve, it would be like a great time sort of like get to know each other." I was like, okay, I don't mind. I'm not even tired myself. Like, so I went along with the plan, and then we went and sit down at the common area. I need to drink water. So we went and sat down at the common area, and then we had to introduce ourselves because, as I said, we never like really had like a proper introduction. So I started introducing myself. So I was like, "Oh, my name is so and so, and I'm traveling. I'm traveling here. I came from Tanzania, and so Like I jumbled all my stuff, and then to sort of like keep the conversation interesting, I sort of like asked him, "Have you ever heard of Tanzania? Like, do you know of it?" Because I was just curious if he knows of it, if he's ever heard of it, like if he, you know, just keep the conversation going. Guys, literally didn't know I was asking the wrong question. I mean, like, I just simply asked this guy, "Have you ever heard of Tanzania? Like, do you know of Tanzania?" And then he goes plainly, "Yeah, I do know of it. It's a German's colony." A colony? My brain just froze. And I was like, okay. Mind you, he's German. So the only thing he decided to praise about Tanzania is that it's a colony. Like it used to be a German's colony. I was like, okay, like let me not be judgmental. Let me like hold my composure. And I was like, okay. And what about you? So just like, okay, tell me your introduction because I don't think I can process the whole colony thing already. And that's just like, I'm always like that. Whenever like something sort of like shocks me, my first reaction is always to freeze, which is why I knew in that moment I can't keep on speaking about me. So I just like turned the conversation and let me hear about yourself. Like, tell me something about yourself. And this guy started like yapping about his life, like, "Oh, sure. My name is this and this. I'm from German. I've been working remote for like the past 3 years." And then he went on to tell me that actually last year, because he's been working remote for like the past 3 years, last year, which is one of the three, he spent like 6 months working remotely from Zanzibar. And if you don't know geography, Zanzibar is in Tanzania. So that literally informed me that this guy knows of Tanzania. He actually lived in Tanzania. He knows other facts about Tanzania apart from the fact that it was a German's colony. But his best reference of Tanzania is referring to it as a German's colony. I mean, I think this has to say a lot about a person. Like, don't you think? Like, let me know in the comments down below. I think this has a lot to say about your personality and like how you perceive things and how you sort of like see people and all of that. Because I'm like, if you've even lived here, you've even lived in Tanzania for like 6 months, and still your best reference of the country is that it used to be a German's colony in like how many years ago? I mean, like, really? Anyway, so he goes, that's not even the worst part of the story, actually. Like, it's getting worse. Guys, I told you I was literally traumatized on this night. I was traumatized so much that I posted the whole thing on my WhatsApp story because I was like, I'm not going through this alone. So, yeah. So it just kept on going worse from there. So he started yapping about his life in Zanzibar and all of that and like all the other places that he has stayed as a remote worker. He even goes on to disclose that he's illegally remote working literally because like his company allows him to sort of like work remote, but they allow him to work remote, assuming that he's working remote in German, but he just goes against the company policy and just like travels without like informing them that he's traveling because they never like really need him in the office, even though they don't want him out of the country. I don't know if that is making sense, but he also disclosed that, which I didn't need that information, but I was like, okay. And then, so we're chilling there, like having small talk conversation or whatever. And then a girl passes. And this girl is one of the other people that he was usually around. So I said, I thought he was traveling with other people because he was normally with like similar crowds. So this girl passes, who is one of the faces that had been seen from the crowds. And then first I didn't notice what was going on because as the girl was passing, he was trying to make it look like we are having a more intimate conversation because like his body language was sort of like, tilting more towards me. I was like, I didn't really like figure the codes until the girl passed. Actually, when the girl was passing, it was just like, hi. And then they just say, hi, hi. And then she passed away. And then when the girl passed, it was like, yeah, this is very good. Like Michelle will be very happy that I finally had a talk with like a black girl. I'm finally dating a black girl because she challenged me to date a black girl. And I'm like, again, I'm frozen. So this guy, literally, all his mission, like all the fact that he was acting very interested in me all those days, like when we're playing games at the restaurant and all that, all this time, he's sort of like trying, sort of like imply like he's interested, like he has, like the way he was acting as a way like a guy that actually likes you, like a guy who's sort of like trying, sort of like make conversation with you and all of that. So it's sort of like gave the impression that he likes me. Little did I know all the way. He was just, I thought it was like a dare or something because he was saying that Michelle had dared him, sort of like dared a black girl. So this is good that Michelle has seen him talking to a black girl, looking like they were on a date. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that I was just like a bait. It's something like I'm just like, I don't know. I've never felt so much agitated until that day. And the funny thing is, it kept on adding up. And then I was like, And even crazy is my reaction because I can't like react outwards. I tend to react inwards. Like when things happen, I just freeze on the inside. So usually people on the outside can perceive like I'm okay with whatever is happening, but it's just my reaction, the way I react. It just tilted more into the inward than outward. So I think to this guy, he just thought probably like I'm cool with everything because I didn't react or I didn't like start acting up like, oh, I didn't. I was just like, okay. And then let's get on with the story. So he starts saying the thing that, oh, his friend has had dared him, sort of like dared a black girl. So this is good that the friend had seen him talking to a black girl looking like they're on a date. So it's sort of like implying that he's working on whatever the thing they had baited on. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. And then with no shame, like this guy, with the same breath that he was disclosing that his friends had dared him, sort of like that black girl, which explains why he was doing like this whole commotion thing. And with the same breath, he asked me out on a date. I'm really like, how can you like just disclose to me that all of this was just like a game to you and then ask me out on a proper date and then expect me to say yes? And I was like, I think I'm so tired. I mean, like, I don't know what I was thinking, but that was my response later. I was just like, I think I'm so tired. I was like, yeah, but I'm asking if we can go out tomorrow and stuff. And then I just started standing up and like, I'm implying that I'm about to leave because I had no words to say. And I'm the kind of person that can just react. I just like freeze. So I was just like, I just started standing. I was like, okay, bye. See you tomorrow. And it was just like, okay, can I at least get a hug? And it's like, dude still has the confidence to ask for a hug from me after traumatizing me with like calling my country colony and then just telling me he was literally having me like like he was literally treating me like what's that called? So I feel like the good girl in me felt like, okay, I can just give him a hug, like what's the big deal? So I was like, okay, like with my face saying that I'm very tired, but I was just like, I'm just gonna get over with this in like the next few minutes, so it's not a big deal. So he asked for a hug. I'd be like, after like being resistant for like a minute, and then I was like, okay, fine. So he stands up, he comes to me to get the hug, and then he hugs me. Has guys, like I said, this kept on getting worse. I meant it. So we hugged, and then as he's sort of like getting away from the hug, it goes like, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you something. And I was like, okay, what is this time? So he gets like very close to my ears and then he tells me, so don't tell anyone about us. How? Like, what is there to tell? That's the first question. Like, what is there to tell about us? And then the second question, I mean, like, if you're so much embarrassed about me, why are you even trying to take me out on a date? Like, I mean, like, I kept on phrasing instead of me because I'm like, this guy, can he just let me live? Because this thing is going on a downhill and it's a fast downhill. Like, he plainly told me, don't tell anyone about us. Like, it felt so much like being in high school. And then the guy that you likes doesn't like. It was like, what? How old are you? I mean, like, he's old. Yeah, he said his age. He's old. So it just shocked me that he's acting very 13, 12, 11, 14-ish. Like, I think the whole interaction with him sort of like had me have like a lot of questions because I'm like, I think what really icked me about this guy is the fact that he knows of Tanzania and he had lived in Tanzania for 6 months, but his best reference of the country is referring it as a German colony. And remember, he's German. So I'm like, you're asking me out as your slave? Like, do you want me to come to you like as my master? I mean, because if you've lived in your country and you still refer to it as a colony and you know like a lot of other good things about the country, but you still refer to it as a colony, I mean, I think that says a lot about the personality and sort of like their perceptions and how they still see people and how they still see countries. I think it has something to do with that. But let me know in the comments what you think about it. And the second thing that sort of like ick me is how like how can someone still say don't tell anyone about us in this day and age? I thought that's something only teenagers would do. And I would understand if a teenager had done that because teenagers are just going through like their own world. But like a proper adult telling me don't tell anyone about us, like make it make sense. Like I really never understand this kind of people at all, at all, at all. And as a disclaimer, I would like to disclose that like I've been in like an interracial relationship before. So when this guy sort of like was showing interest in the beginning, I was sort of like, okay, cool. Because for me it's like okay, like I never discriminate like who to date based on like their race or anything. So for as long as there is like mutual respect and love, I'm always like cool. So when he was acting at first, I was like, okay, cool, great. You do it in my life. So why not? Until he started revealing how he perceives things and how he perceives countries and how he thinks make countries a colony. And that's where I had an issue with. So I don't have an issue with like interracial dating, so to say, like because I've been there, done that, and I can still do it again, like if chances arises. But this guy sort of like just stood out for me. So I really want to know if anyone has ever met either this guy or like anyone with like similar habits because I think these kind of habits are sort of like alarming. Like you guys need to watch out for like these kind of guys because I feel like imagine dating someone who sort of like has this perception. So like how is this relationship going to work? Like are you going to be the slave and him the slave master? Or like how are the roles going to be? Because this guy still perceive countries as colonies, remember. So if a person still perceives countries as colonies, probably his mentality he's still in that day and age. Like he has not evolved from there to where we are now. Like probably he's still like fantasizing about colonizing us in a way. So I'm like, dude, let me know in the comments down below if you've ever had like sort of a similar dating experience or just as traumatizing dating experience, like or just an interaction even. Because sometimes it could be just like a small interaction with someone, but still it will leave you scarred for sort of like a long time because they're just like shaking up your reality in your head. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. What are your opinion about this guy? What are your opinion about the whole situation that happened? I really want to hear your thoughts on this. And until next time, adios.